See, the thing is, like, there's so many different things that, like, I want to hear you say that I don't know where I would begin to
Yeah.
talk to you. You know. Let's start with this. How is living in Denver now?
Denver is awesome, man. I love the mountains. I've recently discovered that I'm a mountain man.
Why do you say
No,
that?
straight up. Like, if I get bored, I'll just get in my car and just drive out to the mountains. And
Nice.
it's so calming out there. I think with everything going on in the world, and it's like you can just sit there and just stare at things that are thousands and thousands and thousands of years old, and like that have shaped over history of time. Like, it's just gorgeous out there. So I love just driving out there, parking somewhere, and they're just sitting there.
Suppose.
Yeah, going on hikes, a whole night. So I love Colorado. It's the place for me.
What's the like COVID situation out there?
So it's it depends where you go. Like Denver, you're wearing a mask. People are gonna look at you funny if you don't. But honestly, outside of that, you're out in the mountains. No one cares.
Nobody knows.
No. And it's funny. I was on a trail one time. I was hiking, and Jefferson County, the county of Denver, like Lakewood, there's a mask mandate. And I was hiking up a hill, and I see two rangers on the hill, and they're coming down. I'm going up, and I was able to see them probably sooner than they saw me. I don't know if they saw me see them. And then they weren't wearing masks when I saw them, but as they got closer to me, they eventually saw me with their masks on, and they get next to me, and they're like, Jefferson County says you have to wear a mask. Oh, really? They want to be an asshole or anything, so I just said, okay, thanks, and just walked right by them. But I'm like, y'all aren't even wearing masks either, so that's funny, man.
Yesterday I went to Dunkin' Donuts, and this lady, I went to the Dunkin' Donuts, like I went actually inside, and the lady wasn't wearing her mask, right? Even if she saw me walking without one, and then the other employee comes in from the back she was wearing a mask, and she's like, you can't be in here, sir, you can't be in here without a mask. I actually learned from you the response, because at first I didn't know what to respond to, like, fuck off. But I was like, oh, I'm medically exempt. And then the other lady, she was the manager, I'm assuming, because she's the one that kicked me out. She, like, put her mask over her face, and then she told me. And then she was like, sir, I can't serve you in here. There's a drive-thru. If you have a car, go through the drive-thru.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, thank you. And then before I was like, do I be an asshole? Do I not be an asshole? I didn't know what to do,
Right.
Some people take it seriously offensive, so I didn't know whether to be an asshole. I was like, what? It's interesting that you kicked me out after you put your mask on, because when you talked to me, you
said
didn't
that
have.
to her?
Yeah, I turned around and I was like, it's interesting that when I walked in here, you didn't have your mask on until you kicked me out. I just walked out. I still went to Dunkin' Donuts because I really wanted a coffee.
Did she say anything back, or you just
No, she just
left it at that?
I just left it.
Yeah.
People are just. Do you actually argue with people whenever they start talking shit to you?
No, that's one thing I don't do. I used to do, but if you argue with an idiot, they'll just bring you down to their level, beat you with experience. So there's no point arguing. There's no positive outcomes in arguing. So I do the same thing. I'm medically exempt, and if they really want to push it, call my bluff, because that's what it is. They will, right? And it's just like, all right, then your choice is to either put the mask on and comply or live your life. So, yeah. It's crazy times we live in, man.
What do you have the same, like, does your family, like, friends, like, well, friends maybe like some, but like your family have the same beliefs as you on this, or
no?
So how do you like have that conversation with certain individuals that believe the mainstream idea?
Oh, isn't that the ongoing, like, how to live life, how to interact with people, like, debate and question? Because it's like, you want to respect people and their beliefs, but also, like, some people, I think it comes down to a matter of just how much you care. If you really care about someone and you really want them to see things maybe in a different way that you believe would be beneficial to their life, and you really care, then you have to do it with delicacy, which can be very hard, because it's such an energized topic. But yeah, like, for my family, no, they don't believe anything. My brother and my sister who I live with, yeah, we're all on the same page, right? But my mother and my stepdad, like, no, they go outside, they put on a mask. My mom works in a school, so, my grandpa's in a nursing home right now, and my grandma's also in an elderly home. So, like, they are very concerned more so with other people's safety, and I think that's what they've gotten a lot of people to cling on to, is like, okay, we need to do this not for ourselves, but for the general well-being of the public.
Yeah.
Right. And that's, like, it's hard to get people to see a big picture of, like, hey, if you're sacrificing these rights for safety, it's like, where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
Right. And so honestly, a lot of times, like we start talking about it starts civil, and then it always ends up very heated, you know, because it's a matter of opinion, really, and it's a matter of your source of information.
I think people get mad because they know somebody, you know, that has had COVID.
Right.
And it's like, you know, a lot of people do lose, you know, family members or friends or coworkers or whatnot. And I think that's what gets people so sensitive is that, like, if they've
Mm-hmm.
had it and they're naturally an unhealthy individual, they're going to get it way worse. It's like if you're, you know, diabetic or obese, or, you know,
Mm-hmm.
if you have a tough immune system or any like thing that another conversation we can get into, right?
Yeah.
Anything that, you know, if you eat processed food and all that stuff damages your fucking insides.
Your
And so
immune
like
system. Yeah.
that, those people are like, it's like you get the flu, you're not going to get the normal maybe two, maybe drink some over the counter stuff flu, you're going to get, you know, fucking sick.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where people get really offensive and start getting really like, you're selfish, you're you know,
I
you're an
see that.
asshole.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea. I think that yesterday, or not yesterday, I was at Ryan's house, and there's this one guy who it was his first time kind of hanging out with us, and they were talking about like, you know, what's happening, and everybody's kind of giving their opinion, and he was like, I think for this to go away, we just have to do what
Get
they
a
say.
vaccine.
And
Oh.
no, he's like, we just have to do what they say. We just have to follow. You know, we can't really do anything. I'm like, see, that's where it starts. Is everybody just kind of does what they're told, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody just obeys to the plan that they have, and at that point it's like, okay, then what are they gonna do next? What's planned next? Is what's the next thing? So do you like, are you, oh, see, I don't know, use the word like
I know where you're
revolution,
going
right? But
at,
are you
yeah.
like totally against everything, or do you comply to certain things with what's going on?
Dude, I know where you're taking this conversation. It's like this is why so many people are like passionate about it. I guess we'd say passionate for spreading the information of like, hey, this really isn't that dangerous. Hey, maybe we should reconsider these policies. Maybe we should really look into these things, because a lot of people look at this as like, this is a precedent-setting matter.
Yeah.
You know, so what comes out of this, you know, in terms of regulation and in terms of laws, really sets the precedent going forward for similar situations. And it's like, okay, if we have a pandemic, that gives us right as a government to take away your ability to meet up with your family, to go to school,
It's fucked.
to go to school, do these things. And people are either at the point of like, yeah, sure, we got to save everybody, or they're like, no, wait, this is tyrannical. This is invoking upon my rights now. And where tyranny starts is, you know, a very, you know, you look at past examples of history of tyranny, Hitler, right? Where it starts is, you know, okay, we just gotta separate the people. You're gonna wear these bands, you know, you're gonna do these things, and so it starts small. It starts with a small premise of you trading this right for this safety or for this reason, but it leads in the same place every time.
Dude, that's insane. I've never thought about it like
And just this last week in Germany, they actually did make legislation that took away a previously had right by the citizens. And what happened was the entire country erupted in protest, peaceful protest. But, you know, they've been down that road. They've had a government that took away their rights only 80 years ago, 90 years ago, right? So it was crazy to see that happening in Germany and the response of it. And of course, there's no national news or no coverage about that. And so it's like,
that. Right.
that's a slippery slope around, is like, you know, when the legislation actually starts coming out that does revoke your rights because of COVID, you know, that's where people get upset. And, you know, people are up in arms about it, and rightfully so,
Yeah.
because past examples have shown that doesn't end well for anybody.
That's fucked. I feel like a lot of European countries have a lot, they resist a lot harder than Americans do.
Yeah.
I feel like Americans are so submissive that,
Mhm.
like, for example, like Europeans, like yellow vests, all that kind of stuff, like
Facts.
you don't see that here.
No.
You don't see like, you see some riots, maybe like all the things that's happening during the summer, but you don't see like actual fight back from governments. Like,
Mhm.
do you think that this will lead into that at some point?
We'll see. I do think so, you know, and I think there's Europeans have been through a lot of political turmoil. There's a history of political turmoil. We've had a very stable government and society for 250 years, right? And, you know, Germany just is, their government completely changed. Yet East Germany, even 30 years ago, right, was a thing. It wasn't until the 90s until that part of things ended. So I think, like, you're right, like, Europeans are a lot more politically involved because of their history and because of the things that have happened in the past. And Americans, we've had it very good. We've had a great government. We had a great system for a long time. So people didn't have to care.
Yeah.
right? But now we're at that point. I think there's a group of people that it may seem like they're the majority of people that are submissive to this, that don't care. But I would also say there's a lot of people who are just simply on the camp of, I want my freedoms, and I have some bullets and ammunition to back that, and over my dead body, you'll take them.
Texas.
Yeah. And that's a big part of America that people that aren't on the internet, that aren't being broadcasted, that people don't know about. And so I'm glad I'm in this country, honestly, with all this thing going down with the world. It's like, because yes, like we have the First Amendment, right? The freedom of speech, the freedom to assemble, the freedom of religion, and then we have the Second Amendment in case that one fails.
Yeah.
Right. So they invoke our First Amendment rights, and that's why we have the Second Amendment. That's why people have guns. And it's I'm not calling for violence.
So we had to stop recording for a second because of the dog, but what were you saying?
So, well, that's one thing I want to make clear is, like, I am not calling for an incitation, like, to incite violence. I'm not a supporter of that. I don't think violence is the answer, but, you know, I do support Second Amendment rights because of the president, because of where we're in, you know, and just looking at history of governments doing things to their own citizens. And it's like, well, what defense do you have against that?
Yeah.
Right. So there's by no means am I saying you should, you know, get a gun and shoot people. No. But yeah, in times like this, it is crazy. You know, we can only theorize about what can actually happen. But my opinion is I would rather be protected, you know, and have that peace of mind.
Facts.
If the government were to oppress, you know, like you think of people who lived in Germany and when World War II happened, you know, if you're a Jewish person, one day someone shows up at your house.
You're fucked.
That's it. You know, so you're gonna sit there in your house and just hope that something bad doesn't happen? Or, you know, it's United States of America. It's like a principle a lot of people believe in very strongly, and what we were founded upon is like reasons we had guns in the first place, right?
Yeah.
British government and things. So there's a bunch of different reasons why we had guns, but I think that's a huge one. It's like just to protect your own personal liberties, because we do have the freedom of speech. We do have the freedom to do anything you want until we don't, right? And that's why we have the Second Amendment.
That's crazy. So a lot of people are, and I heard this on another podcast too, talking about like sourcing. So it's tough to get your information and where you're actually getting your information. So like, how do you make your opinions based on like where do you source information that you create your opinions on?
Yeah, I mean, like that's now pretty widespread known is like, yeah, if you've seen The Social Dilemma, you know, it's like these internet algorithms are built off of you and what you already know and like, and they're going to show you more of that. It's a confirmation bias. But for me, that wasn't any sort of enlightening information. And of course we knew that because that's how the world works. What you believe and what you see in just your life will recreate itself.
Yeah.
Right? Just not on the internet looking for information, but just the world. Confirmation bias is, you know, law of attraction. What you focus on, it grows. And so for me, I think it's necessary to just do a lot of research because there is so much information out there. But also, you know, if you know you're on this side of the fence of this issue, it's your moral responsibility to engage in research and the counter argument to your own bias, to, you know, try to prove yourself wrong almost, right? To look for the information that would disprove what you believe in and then verify that as well. And because that's all you really can do is you can consider both sides of the pie and to form your opinion. And my last take on that is like, I think that information, when you find truth in things, when you find real truth, it's not like you're learning something. It's almost like you're remembering it. And it's like, so I have this sort of intuition that kind of guides me, I guess you'd say. It's just like what feels right, honestly.
Yeah.
You know? Because what else do we have to go on? Like,
facts. Just like that gut feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
What's your, oh man, you're going to love this. So what's your take on when you go to the store now and you see these signs that say, we have a national coin shortage.
Yeah.
Please use exact change or debit or credit card.
I mean, it's happening. It's happening. What people in crypto and, you know, your theories on where the world's going aside, it's happening right now before our very eyes. Is we're transitioning our monetary system to a completely new one.
How did you even get into cryptocurrencies?
Okay, yeah, gotta start there. Yeah, so 2017, I just saw. I remember Mike was in trading already as well. So I don't know. I watched a TED talk one day, and the lady was actually talking about something like this, things like these. You know, the systems that we have and how we need to transition, upgrade, and the financial system is probably the biggest system we need to overhaul. The whole thing almost went in 2008 We didn't fix it. We just put a Band-Aid on it. And so she was talking about the blockchain and how, not even about Bitcoin, but the blockchain, about how we can create a decentralized network of trust, a decentralized network that can create things that are important, like banking systems, accounting records, and we can track all of that decentrally. And it just clicked for me that day. I don't know why. It just, something made sense to me. Like, holy crap, this is huge. Like, blockchain, this is huge. It's going to take over everything. And at the exact same time, no coincidence, Bitcoin price is going crazy. So I had also an incentive financially to learn more about it and get into it. So I remember looking at it the first time back in fall 2017. It was like $6,000 Bitcoin. And then it was like, next week it was like 7, and it was just like that game of like, every single day you refresh your phone, you're like, holy crap, Bitcoin keeps going up. And that led me into the world, and really led me diving into, I just wanted to understand it. Like, I knew something about beyond blockchain was like really big. It was not just some speculation of some digital gold. It was like, no, this technology really has a chance to change how we do things in society, how we organize people and organizations. Like, we don't need banks anymore.
Yeah.
We don't. What good do they provide us?
None. Well, to the uninformed person, banks are the most holy thing in the world, because that's where you go to get loans.
Security,
and, security. Right. It's a great word. So typically people think of Bitcoin, they think of like that is the technology, like that is something that you can physically have. So to someone that's very uninformed about Bitcoin, like, how would you explain Bitcoin and what is blockchain?
Yes, that's a great question.
And the reason I ask is because it's still, like, I understand it. I get the concept. I get what it does. I just don't myself don't understand how it works.
Yeah. Well, do you understand how the internet works?
It's just wires, that transfer data.
Yeah, but it works through a little magic invention called HTTP protocol. And it's this revolutionary protocol, how they created to share information. Right. You understand the basis of it, but my point in saying that was like, everybody today uses the internet, yet I guarantee 999 people out of 1,000 could not explain how it works.
Yeah.
And so I think it's the same thing with blockchain. Everybody in the future will use it, regardless if you understand how it works or not, you will be using it. So my base understanding of it and what it is, I think Bitcoin's a great place to start because it's the foundation of the whole world. Bitcoin was created right after 2008 financial crisis, right? Because when you study that and you realize where the money went, you follow the money, you understand that was set up. The banks were part of it. They knew they were going to crash the economy, and they knew the American taxpayers would bail them out. It's a system where we think that the problem is that we think our federal banks, the Federal Reserve, is federal. Because it's not.
Oh, man, that fucks a lot of people up.
Right. And so you think that the system of money, the system of the economy, and you think it's all federal, and you think it's set up for everyone's best interest, when it's not. And so I challenge anybody who's new to this information to just dive into what is the Federal Reserve. Start there, because you realize the whole federal economy and the people who regulate the amount of currency in our government, that inflation, deflation, none of that is federal. It's private. Federal Reserve is a private company, has shareholders, they earn a profit. They lend money out to our government, right? And so you realize the whole game itself, it's rigged. It's corrupt. The whole banking system of the world is corrupt. And they will take any means necessary to continue to do what they've been doing. As much as 2008, pumping up an entire housing market, giving out loans to people that shouldn't have got loans, making everyone basically lose everything. Yeah. And they still carried on because it's all part of the same club. It's all the same system. So Bitcoin is your alternative to that. Bitcoin's the first technology that allows us to create money, a fair system of money. That's not just another centralized game, because they create dollars. They have the power to create currency. Why do we have to use their dollars? Well, that's the only option we've ever had. And so with Bitcoin and blockchain, what we've done is we've created a new system of money. Maybe you don't even like Bitcoin. I love Bitcoin. Most people love Bitcoin that get into crypto. But if you don't, you have plenty. You have 7,000 alternatives. So it's just it's a technology that's expanding our capabilities within finance and money. And so now you're no longer required to just use your government's currency because you have to. You have an alternative. I think that's the biggest feature of crypto. This is the fact it's a way to get out of that system.
Yeah. So do you think that that's why they're transitioning to slowly? Because David, I saw a video on David Icke. It talks about problem, reaction, solution, right?
Beagle and
So like
dialect.
the problem is that now there's a national coin shortage. Reaction is everybody starts using debit cards or Apple Pay or all that stuff. Solution, I've seen a U.S. coin created and
Yep.
talks about, and again, sources don't know what's reliable or not, but talks about the Federal Reserve creating a coin itself. Like, do you think that that's the process happening right now?
Definitely. U.S. digital dollar will be a thing.
U.S. digital dollar.
Created by whoever, Federal Reserve, right? J.P. Morgan might make their own coin. Who knows? And that's what crypto is. Is like now everybody can make money. So Apple can make its own token and be like, hey, you want to buy Apple products? Use our token. You get 10% off, right? So they have their own sort of currency within their company. So you want to buy Apple, the demand for that coin, the value of that coin is the discount on Apple products, right? So now money's not just limited to being created by the government. It can be created by anybody for any reason, for any purpose.
So how does that benefit society as a whole?
Because
other than the option to not use federally regulated currencies.
That's basically it. Because you think of one of the biggest systems of control that's ever existed is banking, is finance. They have the sole exclusive power to issue currency. They have this sole exclusive power to raise interest rates or to lower them. They run it. They have the levers of the economy because they have such a widespread control of currency.
Yeah.
Nathan Rothschild said, he's like, I care who not sits on the throne. I don't care who's in power in any position. If I control the currency, I control everything.
Yeah. That's insane, dude.
And so that's been the biggest system of control we've ever had to deal with as, regular people living in a world where it wasn't set up by you. As you have to play by those rules. And now those rules have been broken. We have ways to get around them. We have loopholes to those systems now.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are starting to realize that there are loopholes to a lot of things. And it's funny. Yesterday I was at, or 2 days ago, I was at a store and the lady that was checking me out, she was like, no mask? I was like, no, I'm medically exempt. She's like, oh, okay. She was super nice about it. She's like, I'm not judging. She's like, my brother's one of those freaks. She's like, my brother's one of those freaks. She's like, he believes that he's always on the internet. He's like, and he believes that this whole conspiracy theory and all that stuff. So I think that the options and just like information and access to all that stuff, I think that's what makes people a little bit more open-minded to it. And everybody is now talking about Bitcoin because Bitcoin's all over every social media platform.
Yep.
And obviously, market structure. And it's like do you think that this year will get any higher than the all-time Bitcoin high?
I don't see it, just based on previous price cycles. Once we get back to that all-time high that we set before, which was the crazy number, the previous ones were like, before 20,000, the previous high that was a big deal was 1,000.
Yeah.
And so when we came back and finally get back to $1,000, because we've had, Bitcoin goes in 4-year price cycles, right? And so when it shot to $1,000, it retraced and consolidated for 3 years before it shot back up again. And that's what happens continuing on Bitcoin. So using that price cycle to predict what's going to happen in the future, last time we got to the all-time high, we kind of chilled there for about 3 months. We popped up above it, came back down. We were holding there for a while before we eventually shot from 1,000 up to 20 in a matter of a year. And I think if history were to repeat itself, that would be something that we could see happen again.
Yeah. Would
be price coming up to 20,000. We're pretty much there. And hit 19, I think, the other day. Or we're 18.9, whatever it was. And now I think if we hold there, we'll hold there for a couple months before we lead into next year, which could send us to new highs.
So there are a few universal laws that exist out there in the world, and one of them is the law of least effort.
I already knew you were gonna say. I already knew.
Bro, it's because you're just the absolute master at it. How would you explain that to somebody that? Well, first of all, how would you explain to somebody that doesn't even know what the law of least effort is?
The law of least effort is, the way I understand it's this. The way life works seamlessly, right? There's trees don't try to grow, they just grow. Water doesn't try to flow, it just flows. And so human beings, I believe we're put on this destiny on this earth with the destiny of creation, right? You don't have to try to create things. You just do. That's what we're meant here to do. And that's how the whole universe works. It works with an insane intelligence that honestly I don't understand. I don't think any human being can really understand how the universe works and why it works on that deep of a level. Yeah. And so there's this, I apply it in entrepreneurship as this, and there's this grind culture out there in entrepreneurship of like, oh, you gotta grind, bro. You gotta grind. What are you doing? You're not in a call right now. What are you doing? You're not doing an event. You're not making money. Like, what's going on? And it's like this idea of effort, I think, is what a lot of people, where I differ from a lot of the masses, is like people think that effort is miraculous. And I say, especially in America, it's like that grind. Like, oh, he's grinding. He's putting in the effort. He's trying. But if you're trying, we say it all the time, right? You don't try, you just do.
Yeah.
And so there's no effort involved in things that you really are supposed to be doing. You know, when you're involved in, like, for me, I love to play sports, and I love to hike, I love to be out in nature. So, like, when I'm doing that, there's no effort. I'm not thinking about it. I'm not trying, you know? I'm just present, and I'm there. And so the full application of the law of least effort is, you know, when you're so present with your life and you're so present with what you're doing, there's no effort involved. And to an outsider, to the outsider's perspective, it's like, damn, this guy doesn't do anything. He doesn't even try, and he just gets all these results. And it's like, once you find out your flow state and you know what really matters to you, you forget the rest, and it is no more effort to you.
So how do you, like, determine when you're being lazy and when you're just applying the law?
I love this.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: time works in our favor, right? Law of hypnotic vibration. You know, time is the biggest asset in the world. It either works for you or against you. You know, compound interest example: when you have money sitting in something that appreciates over time, that's compound interest. That's time working in your favor. Right? And time can also work against you. You know, if you're doing things negatively, it'll build up against you. You can build debts, and debts create interest, and you can go further in the hole, right? So time works both ways, for and against you. And so the difference between, you know, being lazy and having the law of least effort working for you is simply, I mean, what do you want? What do you want to get? You know, if you want something that requires a lot of physical labor and hard work, you have to get up and do things. That time will compound in your favor. But the things, income streams and things I'm building don't require physical effort. You know, those are things that are built over time with consistent energy and just focus, I'd say, applied to it. So it doesn't mean you have to actually get up and do something every day. I'm using time in my favor of, you know, like building accounts, building relationships, building businesses. You know, you can't rush that process. So the difference for me between being lazy and putting the law of least effort into my favor is really just comes down to your intention. You know, like, do you want your business to go or do you not? You know what I mean? And everyone has their different way of, like, what they think is making their business grow. Things that I've found, they work for me, so I'm going to continue doing them.
That's facts.
Yeah.
That's huge. What else has worked for you in business?
What's worked for me in business is, I think, having a good idea and just sticking with it. You know, I've been doing the same thing now for going on 3 years, you know, and I've been presented so many different opportunities, you know, do this business, do that business, you know, come work over here, do that, get into this, get into that. I'm just, no, like, what works for me is, like, okay, I have a path and I know this is my path, and I'm going to stay on this path because all the other things are distractions of what you really want. So really just committing, bro, just committing to something and putting in that time. You know, 3 years later, it's the compound effect of all that time I put in the past. Yeah. So that's what's worked for me, is just keeping centered, staying on the fucking path.
That's huge. So, like, you grew up in a pretty small town, right? So how do you go from, like, small town vibes, like, not really being exposed to everything, to traveling? How many countries have you been to? Like, 15, 20?
15, yeah, something like that, yeah.
To traveling 20 countries, running multiple businesses. Like, how do you grow from that mentality, from a small town? Because most people, you know, typically that come from your background, they kind of stay in the same position that they're at, you know? And there's nothing wrong with that. There's, you know, exposure. You don't get exposed. You don't hang out with people that you got to hang out with. But what was kind of like, why did your mentality change?
So, yeah, I grew up with small town Wisconsin, Marshfield, Wisconsin. Shout out to Marshfield. 18,000 people in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin. And honestly, I was such a grumpy kid growing up, too. Like, I was always pissed about something. You know, and I think what I really wanted was just more information and more experience out of life. You know, I always thought there was more to life than just chilling in central Wisconsin. So when I was 16 years old, actually when I was 15, I was in my Spanish class. These people come in my class and they're talking about this foreign abroad program. You know, I still remember that day because that was the day that sparked my decision to be like, actually, I could do something like that. You know, and I was fortunate because we had actually hosted an exchange student the year prior. My mom was actually used to be the president of the club that hosted it. It was Rotary, and so she was already involved with it. We already had an exchange student, and so I saw that presentation and I went home that night to my mom like, I want to do this. And I'm really grateful for her because she's always super supportive of everything I've always wanted to do. And she already understood the program. She knew about it. Like, we hosted an exchange student. So she's like, yeah, of course, bet. So nice. I had full support of my mom. And when I was 16 years old, I moved to Rosenheim, Germany for my junior year of high school and spent 7 months there. Damn. Just learning about life, learning about everything. And it was the most eye-opening experience I ever had because it gave me, the confidence to realize, like, yo, I can just go go anywhere, go be anywhere, and do anything I want. And it was like the craziest it's still weird to this day because, you know, I keep in contact with some people I met over there in Germany, and like it was weird because, you know, you pick up somewhere and go to a completely foreign place. Nobody knows who you are. No one has any idea of where you've been and people you know. So you almost get a chance to recreate who you are, you know, and like that was so exciting and so exhilarating. It was just an amazing experience. So I came back to Wisconsin after that experience, and I was like, yeah, no way I'm staying here. Like, I got there's a whole bigger world to go out there and see. So I went to Chicago to go to study because that was a big experience as well, and then just started traveling a lot in college, and one thing led to another. And I think I've always enjoyed that experience, and that's for me what the ultimate thing of traveling is you can go anywhere and you can really become whoever you want. Yeah. And so like traveling is just constantly redefining who you are.
Facts.
That's why I love doing it.
Yeah, I love traveling, dude. I think I haven't been outside except for Puerto Rico, outside the country, but like I think travel, every time I go to a different city, like just here in the U.S., it kind of exposes you to a different vibe, and it kind of adds a little bit of like a little something to your resume of life, you know. It's just like, okay, now you know a little bit. Now you know how this person works or how these people vibe, you know. Denver's a huge like explanation of that. Like first time I went there, I was like, damn, it's a whole different vibe out here. You know, you feel that people are more chill. I don't know if there's no air over there, but
West Coast vibes.
It's super saucy.
And you add a little piece to yourself, you know.
Yeah.
But the cost, you know, a lot of people don't talk about the cost of traveling. Is like you also leave a little bit of yourself everywhere you go, you know, and like. That's one thing that's downside about traveling that nobody talks about. Is like, yeah, it's great to be traveling all over the world, everywhere, all the time, and everyone thinks that's amazing. But at the same time, it's like, it's a totally different lifestyle because there's parts of me that still are in Germany that will never leave, you know. And there's parts of me that are still from Wisconsin and Chicago and all the places I've been, you know. So you like almost like you gain a little bit of the world, you know. You enhance yourself everywhere you go, but at the same time, you're leaving a little bit of you everywhere you go. Yeah. So it's like, where's your home? Like, shit. The world.
what that's funny. I remember there's a time you stayed at my apartment a couple of times, and dude, you just came through with a suitcase. You're like, yeah, this is my life, a big ass suitcase. Like just pick up and live in you know, in a suitcase. Where's a place, like out of all the places you've been, what's your favorite one?
Ooh, sheesh, that's a good one. I really enjoyed Spain. Spain was awesome. That was one of my favorite places. Honestly, I enjoy all of them like equally for their own reasons. It's hard to like objectively be like, this is number one, number two, number three. They all have their special place, their special reasons. But yeah, Europe's a vibe, and I love Medellin, Colombia. Yeah. That place is like it's 60 to 70 year round, 60 to 80 year round. It's like the perfect climate. It's right in the mountains. It's gorgeous. The people there are very nice. And like, what's the first thing you think of when you hear Medellin?
Cocaine.
Pablo Escobar. Yeah, right. And like that city has actually taken that, I wouldn't say personally, but they understand what happened in their past, and they've done a lot of work to change the image and to change the feeling people get, and the culture of the city is completely different now, and it's one of the friendliest places in the world now. Like I was there, I was always so surprised to see the city of Medellin would run these advertisements, you know, it'd be at like a fair or a concert, you know, you'd see like a little ad or whatever. In America, you see it for like Pepsi products or whatever, you know, it's like, and there they would show these ads for the city where it was sponsored, like the city of Medellin presents to you this weird social experiment, and it'd be this person, and they would just be like, hey, it would be a person, obviously they're filming, it was set up a stage, and they would ask people like pretending like, I don't have any money, can you help me get on the train? And it would just be clip after clip after clip after clip of people like, yeah, of course. You know, or different situations where people needed help in public and how willing the citizens were to give them help. And they're very proud of that, and they advertise that. And so it does create this sense of like, I've never been in a city like that in my life where I was just like, damn, this is just an awesome place. Like people are really friendly here. The culture's amazing. So yeah, Medellin, Colombia, and it's cheap. It's like,
dude, out here people would be with their headphones on, like, fuck you, dude.
Right? Yeah, you know what?
Like, nah, they would think you're homeless, like just asking you for directions. I would come up to you at the train station, dude. Like just trying to ask you for which way to go, and you just ignore me, like you think I'm a bum or some drug addict or something. It's fucked.
Oh, dude, like all the people I met there, they're so nice, so willing, always inviting them at home, like trying to make me food. Like even my friends that would come over, some of the girlfriends I had there, like friends who were girls, they'd come over there and they would do my laundry. Like, hey, you need your laundry done? I'm like, what? What? It was just a weird, different level of like hospitality I was never used to. So yeah, I love Medellin.
That's dope. I gotta go. It's on the list, dude. Everywhere you've been, I was on my list just because I've seen your snaps. You know, I've seen your stories. I'm like, I want to go.
Oh, dude, we got a whole lifetime to go, man.
Dude, facts. Yeah. I'm thinking about the risk to reward now, being here.
Yeah.
The risk is not as much. Yeah. The reward is way higher. True. I just feel like, you know, it's pretty fucked up here. So I don't know how it is in the rest of the world, but I would like to know.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, especially with where the world's heading right now. You know, and look at places like Sweden. They didn't have 0 lockdown, 0 masks.
Yeah.
They're doing just fine.
One of the last things I want to talk to you about, and the reason I think, we talk a lot about serious topics because we don't bullshit. And I talk to you about this, even when we're not on camera, but just because a lot of serious shit, and you're very informed. I'm not sure if you stay up at night and just like read news articles, but like you're very informed on a lot of shit. Yeah. So I think it's right to get an opinion from someone that actually puts in the work to do that, not just like has a biased opinion on something just based on whatever background they have. And it's a pretty sensitive topic. Again, I think if not more sensitive than COVID, but do you think there's actually fraud in the election right now?
Oh, dude, I didn't know where you were going. I was like, wait, more sensitive than COVID. But I appreciate you saying that, man. That means a lot. Everything's fake today, right? Your food's fake. Your history's fake. And your news is fake. And so now your election's fake as well. So it's like, I think that pretty much summarizes my thoughts on it, to be like, at the end of the day, none of us are going to really know.
Yeah, facts.
And depending on what sources of information you get different opinions and you get different narratives of what's happening. One side says, hey, there's 300,000 ballots that came in this state. Every single one of them was for one side. That's unfair to us. The other side's like, well, I don't even know what the other side's saying, honestly. But I'm not buying into the game of left versus right, red versus blue, because it's ultimately the same thing. And it's this illusion of democracy. We haven't had democracy in a long time. And it gives you people these illusions. I saw this one TikTok. It's like summarized, I think, a majority of people so well. He's like, he was jokingly saying, he's like, so I went to go take the election, and nobody prepared me for this test. I felt like I was in high school again. There was a bunch of questions on this test I didn't even know were going to be on there. They're asking me who's for the school counselor, like the school board, the mayor. And so I think a lot of people were waking up to that. They go to vote for the president, and they don't realize there's 49 other names on that ballot of things that matter way more in your life and that you have no idea about. And so it's like this political, what do you want to call it? A political almost show of like, oh, who's going to be the president? And it happens every 4 years, and people buy into the fact that they're really a part of our democracy because they choose left or blue every 4 years. And they're not voting in the really important elections, like for their mayor, for their school board, every 2 years, voting for Congress, voting for Senate. And so my whole opinion on like the debate of who won this presidency is like, didn't fucking matter to begin with.
When did you come up with this type of like opinion? Like, when did you realize that like voting. Politics is a fucking joke?
Well, I actually I grew up Democrat. Right, so
Are you still a Democrat?
No. if I would vote, I would vote the other way. But no, that's where I think I realized it was growing up Democrat. Learning things that my mom told me, like big business and these greedy businessmen that do everything for profit are the reasons why other people suffer. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, that's a good argument. That makes sense. And a lot of people buy into that. They buy into this idea that the system, the government, the society that we created we need to design it in a way that's going to help people. And then you really start diving into these things, and the traveling I've done, the experiences I had, going to countries where they have extreme economic hardship, and, what we're involved with just teaching people how to build income streams on their own abilities, not relying upon an employer or a government to give them the things that they need to survive, but learning how to build it on your own. And that's where I think my views and ideas have changed a little bit. Is like, now I'm more conservative in the idea that I think, it should be given to the people, and people should have that ability to create for themselves. And the systems that are designed to help people should not interfere with the people that are actually trying to help them. Yeah. Right? Who actually helps the people? I used to think it was the government. And now I have an opinion that it's not. And so wherever you're on that spectrum, it doesn't really matter. But I realized, like, wait, both sides get money from the same donors, right? And then you start learning about how the dollar works, right? And you start learning about how the economies work. And you really learn that the dollar bill and money drives politics. It's not political issues. It's not, someone believes in this, someone believes in that. And so you can see the swings of the dollar, and you see the swings of the market, and you see the different candidates that get in when the economy's great, and you see the candidates that get elected when the economy's not great. Yeah. You're like, wait. And you just, there's not like one single piece of evidence that's like, yep, this is the reason why I believe it's all fugazi, and there's really nothing going on here other than you getting sold that you have a choice when you don't. It's just a multitude of a life experience of realizing, like, wait, none of these people, red or blue, give a shit about me or you.
Facts. All they give a shit is about their fucking image and their money, bro.
Exactly, their money. They're paid for it. They're corporate, and it's like, to bring up a really controversial name, Donald Trump, is like crazy because it's like, your opinion on him or not, he's the first person that didn't have to fund his political campaign through donors.
Yeah. Dude, yeah, it was crazy because all through Facebook before the elections, I kept seeing, give us $20, give us $10 from fucking Biden and Harris. And I'm like, how the fuck do you expect these people to actually donate when they don't have money? Like, you had to send them a check because they didn't have money.
Yeah.
And now you're asking it for it back to help you win a race that's supposed to be like, you know, a fair fight.
It's supposed to make
like,
your life
what,
better, yeah.
I just, it really doesn't make any sense, you know?
Doesn't.
How are you supposed to ask the public or the people for money to make you the president? You know, it's insane.
I mean, it all starts back to what we were talking about before. You know, 1913 was when the Federal Reserve was created. That was the day that our monetary system was sold to private contractors, and so ever since then, our democracy has been slowly fading because you can purchase votes now. You know, NRA is one of the most powerful lobbying when it comes to the Republican side.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and, you know, you look at the pharmaceutical and the medical industry, and they're one of the powerfulest lobbyists on the other side of things. And so, you look at how much money influences elections, you know, and you realize you're in a game that you can't win because they print and control money to begin with. So, you know, that's like Nathan Rothschild said. He predicted the future. He said, it doesn't matter what political system you have. It doesn't matter any of these things. Control of currency is everything.
Yeah.
And then everything can be bought after that because you need more money, you print it.
Facts.
So they bought the whole thing. And it's like, we don't have a democracy. We have an oligarchy. Money gets changed in this country. Money influences where the country goes. Not political opinions, not social problems, none of that. That is a front to just divide and conquer.
Yeah. So do you think Trump will stay in office since he's got more money?
I don't think so. I think people with money behind Biden have more money than him. So. Damn,
really?
Yeah, because Biden is not just Biden, bro. It's the whole pharmaceutical industry. It's the whole World Health Organization. It's Hollywood. It's look at all the people that have vocally went out there to say, you know, I support this and I detest this, and that's crazy too to me. That's like their entire campaign was just not him.
Yeah, it was everybody else rooted him on, dude. I know.
Tell me, like,
fucking talk.
Dude, it gets me going too. And it's like I said, I'm not on either side. I don't believe Trump or the Republican side is the answer either. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying when you see one side go so heavily in their offense against somebody else, what did that man do? That's what I want to know. What did Donald Trump do or say that caused such an uproar from the established society, you know, within Hollywood and within the government, within medicine, all these things? Like, what did Donald Trump do that really pissed off? Because before he became the president, he was loved.
Yeah.
He was loved. And it's like the fact that all these media, which are, you know, controlled by 6 companies, the fact that this media hates him so much, it's like, that to me is just it's just an interesting point to go down, because it's like, well, what did he do? What did he say that pissed off these people? Like, why do they hate him so much?
Yeah.
You know?
I think he's just actually exposing shit that's actually happening. I think people are just too fucking blind to see it, right? Because, like, they're just so, you know, they're so, I don't know where I heard this, but it's like, if you're over the age of 30, you're 100% conditioned. Like, it's very, very hard for you to change your bias or change your opinion on something. And it's like, you have cognitive dissonance, you know, like you don't figure out what, like, it's an argument against your own beliefs, and you tend to reject it, you know. It's really fucked up. I think it was you that we were having this conversation in California, that every like 200 and something years or something like that, right? A new government. What was that like?
Yeah. I think you can look it up. And most governments, most republics, whatever, you know, they create a constitution and, hey, this is how we're gonna run things, right? Those things don't last for more than 200, 300 years, right? Until a new system is created. Right, because enough people get fed up with the old one. And for example, the United States of America, it's like, all right, enough people are sick of this, so they came over here, started a whole new thing. That's what we've been running, but eventually that's gonna fade. Just, you know, like France had its revolution in the 1700s. Yeah. Right, like shortly after we did, you know. And so even, you know, see like the dismantling of the Soviet Republic, like the Soviet Union. and all those new nations that created and all the new. So that's the thing, is like we don't have any experience of it because for generations and generations we've had the same government, the same system. And so it's a really crazy idea for us. Like, wait, we could just change all this, start over? Like, yeah, it happens a lot,
Do you think that's happening now?
Yeah, definitely. Like, it's just people are upset.
So what model would you give it? Because I feel like obviously dictatorships don't work, king and queen bullshit, and like, so what kind of model would you expose or would you present? Like, if you were.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked this, because every other government that we've ever had in the past was simply, hey, these people are in power, then they piss off enough people, the people who are pissed off revolt, take over. And they're like, all right, it's great now, right? Until those people piss off enough people, and a new group of people takes them over, and it's just repeat, right? That's the cycle we've been on for a long time. But that's why I love this, because this conversation is not going for a circle. It's like, that's why I love the blockchain so much. And that's what I realized about the blockchain. It's like, this is a completely different way to reorganize people. The only reason we have a government to begin with, the only reason you believe in authority, is because there needs to be some sort of rules and regulation, right? I'm not a believer in anarchy, but why do we have a government? Well, they're the ones who decide what's best for everybody, right? They create the rules that's supposed to create the most fair society, right? And we have this idea that it has to be a single, whether it's not a single person, because we now have the president, and the president, and the splits of powers. We have the Congress, we have the Senate, right? We have the judiciary, the legislative, and what was the third one? The executive, right?
Yeah.
So we have the different branches of government that is supposedly a more fair way of delegating power. But the idea that we have to give a select group of people power over everybody to begin with is, I think, what's flawed. And we've had no way to solve that up until we created the technology like the blockchain. And the blockchain essentially is a way for us to redistribute power so we can create decentralized things that don't rely upon authority. Because the thing with power, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Like I said, like I just said, that picture I painted before is like, okay, you have people in power, they piss off enough people, those people take over. Well, then those people become in power, and over time, the same thing's gonna happen to them. They're gonna become corrupt, right? Because that's what happens with power, is when you give that authority to power to people. And so, with blockchain, it's like what we're doing is we're completely redistributing power. We've actually created systems where we can organize people, and not give any single person or group or the authority to rule over the whole system. It can actually be run decentrally. And so we're experimenting with that technology, and the first experimentation is Bitcoin, redoing our monetary system. No, we don't need a central record. We don't need a central authority of who's got what. We'll all keep track of it. The blockchain, mining.
Yeah.
Right. And so you can take the idea further. What Ethereum's done, creating smart contracts, you can now do that without just finance. I think one of the greatest examples of what I'm talking about is like, or a potential example is like charities, Red Cross, right? Mm-hmm. That's an organization created. It has management structure, has people who run it, right? And they collect money to donate to causes, right? Haiti, hurricanes, things that happen in the world. They collect money from the world and they get it. But guess what? There's a centralized entity behind it, and you'd be naive to think that they don't benefit or profit off of those things.
Yeah.
That the 100% of your funds are not going to that cause. And so in a future world with blockchain, we could build a charity like the Red Cross with actually nobody behind it. No one with the actual need to take profits out of it. 100% of your money would go to that cause, because this charity, this organization, is run by algorithms. It's run by code.
Sheesh.
We eliminate the need for central authority of anything with the blockchain. That is the biggest revolution. That, I think, it could take hundreds, maybe thousands of years to play out. But that's the technology and what we've unlocked. That's what's come out of Pandora's box, and Pandora doesn't go back in. And so, like, now we've unlocked the ability to organize human beings into, systems of finance, systems of charity, even governments. We can do in the future, and create a system where we really don't need a ruler. We don't need an authority.
Mic drop, bro. That's it, bro.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on, bro.
For sure, bro.
That's love, bro. Sheesh. What a vibe. That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, we're good. Damn. That was a fucking nug, dude.